Look at the glory there. That is some beautiful coffee. Well, the coffee's flowing and it's time to get going. Hey, welcome back to Questions Over Coffee. My name's Kevin Smith. It's good to see you again. Want a cup of coffee? Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything that's coming up on Questions Over Coffee. If you have a comment or a question, leave it in the section below. We'll get to it just as fast as we can. Today's question comes from KLYBAA. They write, "Can Christians work as a criminologist?" I wanted to make sure that I understood what type of field this was and what area of criminology they were referring to. So I went ahead and asked for clarification. Here is what KLYBAA wrote. Kind of detective and does research on why criminals do what they do, and also, yeah, CSI type, or I don't really know what that means. Thanks so much for the answer. KLYBAA, this is a really good question because that is a kind of a dark field in some cases, or at least the police officers and detectives that I have had the pleasure of knowing, they say it is a struggle. Some of these police officers are Christians, and they have been very good examples to the congregations that they have been a part of, and some of them, well, unfortunately, they are not Christians, but they seek to be the best people they can be. They're just, for some reason, not interested in the message of Jesus. But first thing I would say is yes, a Christian can be a criminologist, but they need to be aware that it is a dangerous field, sometimes physically, but definitely spiritually speaking, because of the people that they are dealing with, the behaviors that they are dealing with, things of that nature. So the first thing I would say is, if you choose to go into this field, best wishes to you, and I hope and pray that you do a great job with it, as well as, most importantly, that you hang on to your faith. To look at a couple of passages really quick, let's go ahead and look at Ephesians chapter 4, verses 19 through 25. Here's what Paul writes. "And they, having become callous, have given themselves over to sensuality for the practice of every kind of impurity with greediness. But you did not learn Christ in this way. If indeed you have heard him and have been taught in him, just as truth is in Jesus, that in reference to your former manner of life, you lay aside the old self, which is being corrupted in accordance with the lusts of deceit, and that you be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new self, which in the likeness of God has been created in righteousness and holiness of the truth. Therefore, laying aside falsehood, speak truth, each one of you, with his neighbor, for we are members of one another." Okay, so Paul's writing about Gentiles and those that are, well, unfortunately, at least at that point, on the outside looking in, not interested in what the gospel has to say. They are, in this case at least, still living the way the world lives, lying to one another, cheating one another, being skeptical of a number of things. And if you're thinking this could sound like some Christians I know, well, unfortunately, this is the case. If we are not careful, no matter what field of work we are in, we can become calloused because of the things that we deal with at work, the people that we deal with at work, the things we see in society, and so forth. So first thing I would say, I guess, as far as the criminology goes, is be very careful. Keep a tight check on yourself that you are not becoming calloused by the research that you're having to do, the field work you're having to do, things of that nature that could make you look at people in an extremely negative and in some cases ungodly way. But the second piece of warning comes as well with the speaking truth. Be careful that you don't taint evidence or taint research based on what a supervisor wants to be said, or where the funding needs to go, or whatever the case may be in this situation. You know, in some cases, even in churches, if the leaders are not careful, they will not exactly taint the message, but highlight the appealing parts of the message to draw more people in, and kind of ignore, shall we say, the harder parts, the parts that require change and things of that nature. So be careful when it comes to this kind of research, that you don't become like the people you are researching as well. I mean, that is always a danger, because we deal with someone so long, and if we are not careful, we become like the person we deal with. The second thing I would say, the second passage I would point you to is James chapter 1, and we're going to take a look at verses 12 through 15. Blessed is a man who perseveres under trial, for once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself does not tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his own lust. Then, when lust is conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. This passage, in many ways, goes right along with the Ephesians 4 passage that we looked at before. Be careful not to be tempted to shift your findings, shift your evidence, shift, in some cases, maybe even your testimony, in a way that is just a little not exactly right. You know, make sure that you are staying honest, that you are presenting the truth the way that God wants you to present the truth, instead of changing it to suit a supervisor, or to keep a job, or to maybe throw someone in jail that you know is guilty, but the evidence just doesn't point that way. And no should be in quotes here, of course. But hopefully this will give you some things to think about as you consider your career path. And I hope and pray that God will lead you in the path that he wants you to go, so that you can support your family in a way that will bring him glory. I have a question for you. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you, the biggest spiritual challenge for you in this particular field? And for those of you that are not planning to go into the criminology field, but have worked in the private sector for years, or even the government sector for years, what is the biggest spiritual challenge for you? And how do you handle those spiritual challenges so that you can keep a rock solid faith, leave me a comment in the section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything that's coming up on Questions Over Coffee. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to the next time. Keep pressing forward.